pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening. Today is Tuesday, December 10, 2024, the time being 5:30 p.m. The meeting of the Greensburg Board of Works is called to order. At this time, please silence electronic devices. Amy, would you please call the roll?
Jamie Kane.
Here.
Lauren Barnhorst. Here. Robin Meyer.
Here.
Alex Heavy.
Here.
Mayor Joshua Marsh.
Here. You all should have received a copy of the minutes from the November 12th and December 9th executive session. Any edits, additions, or corrections? If not, those will stand as presented. We'll move directly into old business. Zach Wearig is here to talk about the Next Level Trails bid approval. Good evening, Zach.
Good evening, Board. Since our last meeting and opening the bids for the Rebekah Park Trail, we have elected not to go with alternate one. So that leaves just the base bid for the trail itself. With that base bid only, the award for the lowest bidder goes to PAF Construction. You will have in your packet all the contracts and signatures needed for that award, along with a notice to proceed copy signed by myself to be sent to the contractor tomorrow.
What was in alternate one?
Parking lot. So the alternate one was the parking lot to be
Larger than what? Yeah, okay.
And they've informed you that they are not proceeding with that project at this time.
correct.
So last time we had tentatively awarded it to a different contractor based on that, but it was not awarded.
Yeah.
So I believe the correct motion would be to now award the contract without alternate one to PFA Construction.
So moved.
Is that right?
PAF Construction.
PAF Construction. Jamie's made the motion.
Second.
Second by Lauren. Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Perfect. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you very much.
Brooke, you're here this evening. I know you were here last month. Come on up. We've went over the water and wastewater stuff. Obviously, with the council, the water board has recommended that to the city council as well. This body needs to recommend it for the wastewater to this council, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else you want to clear up, or board, do we have any questions? I know we heard about this last month. So that's easy. Is there a recommendation?
Real quick, I'm sorry, I was just trying to pull up the right graph here. And so I think after phase 3, this is going to put us closer to the right end of that bar chart, right? I mean, we're on the upper scale. There's only, on a sewer rate scale, there's only 3 other cities in this comparison that will be higher than us. And granted, by that time, it's 3 years from now, and things may change in other cities. But, you know, what have we looked at other ways that we could cut costs where we don't need to do these raises or this significant of a raise, because we're no longer going to be sitting in the middle, right? I think we're comfortable kind of being more towards the middle somewhere. Maybe we didn't have to be the cheapest, but we're going to be skewed to the right in a very far way this way.
Yeah.
So I think we need to look at other alternatives rather than just blindly accept this and say that's what we're going to do.
So one thing that I talked to Mayor about and Donna, and really one of the reasons why that comparison wasn't initially used in the rate study, and we've kind of just across all rate studies removed it, is because when working with engineers, it's a heavy discussion, because plant to plant, even if it's a similar city in population, all depending on the type of plant that you have, the type of collection system you have, it just makes things vary so much that it's hard to say, well, this unit is at this rate, but then the next city over is at this rate, when you could have completely different systems that require a different base cost, and then like how many people it takes to, run that system and all the different variables that go into it. So we really have removed it unless people request it. Just for that reason, we don't feel that it's a fair comparison because of all the different variables that can go into that. So yes, that is how it shows, but I do just want to make sure that by the time we get to the point of where we're at for introducing rates, we've gone through several different scenarios in the background working with the city on if we cut this, what does it do? If we do this, what does it do? And essentially where it boils down to is you're paying with these projects by the cash, the ENR, that's mainly what this rate study is for, and to keep up with inflation. You would have to look at a debt at that point.
No,
Would be
but
the
I'm-
difference.
So there's different scenarios that might allow certain operations to work basically at a lower cost. So like Speedway and Yorktown and Madison that are gonna be on the far left of this chart, what have we looked at them to see what operational controls they have? Maybe it's the way they operate their clarifiers, maybe it's different equipment that they have, but they're able to do this at a much lower cost per capita. And so what's the difference? And have we looked at that to add that to our capital plan so that we can start operating at a lower cost? So we don't have to continually raise that rate, or maybe it's an investment, one-time investment in a piece of infrastructure that allows us to have a cheaper rate over time. And I think that's where we're missing the mark here. We're looking at, here's what we've got, here's what we need to do to maintain it, but we need to be looking long-term and what equipment should we be purchasing to reduce operating costs?
Right, so I would say that it's less operating and more of the capital projects on what this rate is driven off of. So your operating costs are very reasonable. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily the operating costs, it's more so these capital projects that were provided in the report. That's the primary driver of the rate, is just funding those capital projects.
Do those capital projects include like best practice sharing from maybe a Speedway, Yorktown, Madison, to understand how do we reduce operating costs? And I feel like there are capital costs to maintain our current status quo or maybe improve some things, but I don't think we've looked at other organizations to say how do we better and more efficiently operate our equipment. That's where I'm asking. I don't feel like that was included in the capital costs.
I think we take a very, I don't have a specific example for you, so I can't sit here and say, yes, we've talked to them about this. I do think that our operations team does a very good job of being efficient and running and operating the facilities, maybe sometimes to a fault. I do think that, to Brooke's point, a lot of this is capital driven, and the operations component is it's a big part of it, but it is also not behind the driver, right? Employee benefits and raises, we're not adding a bunch of staff in this. I'm sure there's probably room in there somewhere for maybe some operational efficiency, but I don't think it's outside the scope of what would be deemed acceptable. And I think we do that in a roundabout way when we bring in our engineering and consulting firms that help us find the best path forward, right? We're looking for how can we make these infrastructure improvements at a reasonable amount. And so I think we do that by not doing everything in-house to where we're in a vacuum.
I think we try, but I think the piece where I think we're missing the boat is we're looking at current operational costs and how do we efficiently run what we've got. I guess I'd like to challenge us to go out and see what other equipment's out there, what other best practices, because there's obviously cities that are able to do this at a much cheaper cost per capita. So where are we missing that boat? And what are we missing here to be able to do that and provide for our community in the same way they're able to do for theirs?
Is their infrastructure a lot less significant than ours?
I can't answer like the engineering side, but we obviously work with a lot of these clients. And honestly, I can say what a lot of it is they are not necessarily going out 10 years on a capital plan and really looking at the future. Sometimes actually that rate increase is just to get them up and running on operational, and we are not even focusing on any infrastructure issues. We're just trying to get them in the black, essentially. So some of these rates might be lower, but also their infrastructure might be very old, or they don't have an engineering plan or anything like that, whereas you guys are actually, we always say, like, you guys are always forethinking, you're thinking about the future and along down the road, and if you were to go for a new funding, we have to do this 10-year capital plan, and we have to go by those engineering plans. So as far as like the planning goes, I think Greensburg does a great job at that and thinking about the future. So all of these, all of these projects are coming from that side of things. So I can't speak specifically on infrastructure just because that's not my world. But just so you know, like a lot of units, maybe they haven't had a rate increase in 20 years. And so they still look low, but that was because we were only going in to try to get their operational up and going, and in the black, and maybe that could have been a 60% rate increase for them, even though they're still lower. Does that help?
It does. I guess I'd just like to understand if that's the case for some of these on here. And I don't know how we get that information or what. Because I would like to have that information because we're not only on the Board of Works, but we're making a recommendation to the council. I'm on the council, and we're going to sit here and look at these things, and we're going to have to defend to the community, why are we doing this? And obviously, planning for the future and having a capital plan, I think, is one of those things we have to do. It's critical. If we're just trying to pay the bills and something goes wrong or we have issues, we won't be able to fix those things, and we're not doing the right thing for our community. So I think we have to do that planning, but we also have to be able to come back and say we were being financially prudent with the money, we were doing the right things, but we're not overkilling it either, right? And there's other cities here that are doing it for less capital, but like you said, maybe they're not looking at future planning. Maybe they have much older equipment, maybe it's less efficient. I don't know those things, but that's the answers I'd like to have to be able to defend the decision that we're making.
Brooke, do you also know, like, because some on this list are privately owned utilities, they're not all necessarily municipally owned, which allows them to have like they can pull money from another community that they own a utility in to fund?
Yeah, so private utilities operate completely different and under completely different statute. So, and they wouldn't even, if we asked for their rates and how they came up with it, they don't even have to provide that. So we have ran into that where we have requested information just because sometimes it's a border city, or people within that same city just out of city limits is getting used from that private utility. So that's different. The other thing I will note is I can't come out and just like say who all is going through a rate study on this list because it's not public knowledge yet, but a lot of units around the state are actively working on rate studies. Every year that's the case, but recently after COVID, honestly, everyone's trying to just like catch up and now go through those rates and start looking at more capital planning. And part of it is because item mandates, those are always happening. So a lot of those old infrastructures. So that list is constantly moving. The other piece that we find a lot that happens is in an ordinance, it will read, this is a minimum charge, and then here's your flow charge. So when I'm reading that, I'm only going to put in the flow charge because that's the only thing I can say for sure that this person is getting billed. But then say maybe we get engaged for that client and then we find out that minimum charge is actually a base charge. So they're getting the base charge plus the flow charge. So even though the ordinance reads a minimum charge, which that happens a lot, it's very common, it's actually functioning as a base charge. That's going to significantly change their rates too, but I can't include that just because I have to assume that they're billing as that ordinance reads, but that's not. Definitely, we come across that difference a lot. So I always just want to say, like, don't hold true to those numbers just because there's so many different variables. That's why we just decided to stop automatically including those. But we do still like to use it some just to make sure, like, okay, we're not like way off kilter here, right? We're not saying like we're way farther than another similar unit of size. And if I know more of the operating side of a municipality, then yeah, I'm going to look at that, but that can't necessarily be public knowledge.
I also think it's worth noting that when we were looking where we are currently in $49 on the average rate, 4,000 gallon, we're within a couple dollars both ways. Jim, when you were talking about the third phase, as mentioned last month, we're expected at the end of phase 3 to be about $10 more. The next one up that you're referencing is 60, so we go to 58, the next one's 62, then 79 and 81. So I mean, we're not gonna move outside of those. And then I think it's also, to Brooke's point, fairly reasonable
The others are gonna shift as
to
well at
shift
some point in time, or
right?
most
I
of
mean,
them will, yeah.
the one that's right above us right now is $50. I mean, it is probably very likely that that moves up $10 too. And I imagine the people at $81 would move up $10 or more too, because they have a very high per capita for 3,000. And then I talked to a lot of our cohorts around the state, and there are a lot of utilities that have not done rate increases in a very, very long time. They're very stuck. They're not able to deal with those emergency situations that come up or their long-term planning. I give a lot of credit, always have, to past administrations, to consistent department leadership, to the councils, to the boards that have supported making sure that we do this incrementally. I don't disagree with you that, we do have to talk about where and what that's going for. Again, I don't think there's much room. We can look into that. I don't know how we tackle that maybe tonight or even in the next week.
No, I just being transparent, I think I'm in favor of recommending and passing this, but I think it's something we have to push our departments, water and sewer, to go back and start saying, hey, are there better ways to operate this same equipment? Or, instead of just saying, how do we keep this equipment we have running, or how do we buy new of this? Maybe that's the wrong equipment. Maybe we've got the wrong type of sludge press. Maybe we need a different type of press. Maybe we need something other than a clarifier. I don't have that answer. I'm not telling you. But I think those are things we need to be asking those questions, so that when we're doing our capital planning, we're looking at those things to make improvements going forward. And then if we can bring in operational efficiencies, we still have to have the capital money to make those changes, but we can improve on operational efficiencies and better serve our citizens.
I've got a question. Also, is there a reason we don't have comparisons with some of those cities right next door to us?
If they're really small and not like a great comparison, then we don't include those. Or if they're really small, then some of their stuff is not always available online to even see.
Yeah, most of those are not smaller than we are, in Columbus, Shelbyville, so.
Yeah, it really just depended when we went through the chart. And Columbus wasn't included specifically because they are going through a rate case right now, but they are still regulated under IURC, so they have to go through IURC on their water side. So that one wasn't, because they are going through a rate case right now. That's a 3-phase as well, so.
And
Theirs has been reported on. Theirs is like 25, it's mid to upper 20% is what they're considering over 3 phases. I'm sorry.
For an increase?
Yeah.
Oh, ouch.
Mainly capital as well, when you look at their stuff.
Yeah, because this is capital driven in some respects, I see your point, Jamie, and I accept that. As I recall, 3 years ago, or 4 now, I'm not sure, when we looked at this, we looked at our phases, we were inching up again, because where we were in the middle or lower to the middle. Now we're near the bottom, so to speak, of at least what chart we see. And I suspect that within the next 3 years, we're going to see the same kind of adjustment. When we look at it 4 years or 3 years from now, we'll see that we're not at 16, we'll be at 10 in the middle again. So I take your point. At the same time, I think while nobody likes to see an increase, if you don't keep up with things, you're going to pay it in the other side as opposed to as you go along. So,
Good discussion. Anything else?
I would move recommending the rate study to the council.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Glenn, seconded by Robin. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Perfect. Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you.
Thank
See you at the next meeting.
Sorry. Thank you.
No, you're good. Questions are good.
Chief McNeely, you've got a conditional offer for us.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for giving me some time last night to come meet. I'm coming to you tonight to ask for conditional offer for applicant number 1. With that, a consideration that it does not start before January 1st, and that we use the agreed lateral agreement that we looked at last night.
That motion.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made. All those, and seconded, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you.
Real quick, Chief,
Yes.
we don't plan to wait until January 1st to start the PERF process, though, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Just,
Underway.
awesome, thank you.
Chief Sturmer, Records Management Service. Good evening.
Good evening, Board. Just a matter of clarification here. So we have had a long-standing history with the records management system that we have implored the use since we switched from Firehouse. Unfortunately, this system was bought out by a larger conglomerate company and has increased the cost of that. Unfortunately, we have shopped around. We have tried numerous different records management software. And the department had selected ESO as our new provider. It just happens to be that they're the ones that bought out emergency reporting. And to do that switch over and cost over, it comes at a price tag of just over $10,000, about $218. And that is $2,000 some odd dollars for onboarding, and then it's going to be around a little over $7,000 price tag per year. Currently, we pay around $3,000, $4,000 per year for our records management system. I would have the numbers, but I've been at a fire at Honda all day and going to be going back. So I apologize for that. With that, because of it is a necessary thing, we have to have records management software. We have to be able to file our national and state fire reports, as well as it's how we keep our documentation for how many runs we've made, how many CPR classes we've taught, how many car seats we've checked, how many public interactions we've had, plus all of the fire and emergency incident calls that there are. It is a necessary evil that we have to have. Currently, I have it with some end-of-year money in our budget this year to be able to pay for the onboarding and the first year's amount for the total of just over there of $10,000. So basically just asking, obviously, approval, being over the $5,000 mark, to move forward with this. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
You said the current program was bought out and not compatible with where?
So the company that we're going with is bought out the company that we currently use, so they're phasing it out. Okay. So basically, we had about a year notice, so we have demoed and undertaken several other records management softwares that were put out to our department to demo and to try to see, is it user friendly? Does it have, will it easily compatible? Is it easily compatible with some of the software that we have now? Will all of our runs pretty much from the years that we've used emergency reporting, will all those runs stay in the system? Mm-hmm. Can they all be imported in? Do we lose them? Do they, like Firehouse did not import into prior to emergency reporting, so everything prior to that switch was on a different system. Do we have to do the same thing? So now, obviously for records retention, now we have to keep digital files, or at least keep a hard drive and of all these reports so that we have that record. None of those were compatible except ESO, as well as ESO was the most user-friendly of the selection. So our emergency medical run reports are done by that, all of our fire reports are done by that, and then all of those additional things that it does, fire inspections, it keeps track of how many public interactions we have, how many car seat checks we do, so we can go back and actually provide numbers of, hey, we did this many car seats, we've done this many smoke alarms. Unfortunately, it's pretty much the same product that we have with emergency reporting. It's just that they're charging like 3 times the cost. And so we've looked at cost comparable other records management systems, and they're not as user friendly. They don't seem to really do what we want to do. And when our recommendation came back from the technology committee, when I gave this to them over a year ago, they recently just decided, it took them about a year to do it, that excuse me, that ESO would be the proper choice that they would like to make for the department. So again, I do have that money this year. I don't have and it would take care of this year and then next year's annual cost, and then I'll have to look at the budget numbers, and then because it is an increase, and we did not increase our budget for records management software because we didn't necessarily think we were going to have to. So the timeline of switchover was pushed by them. because they bought the company we use, they said, when we contact you, you have to then move over at this time. So we're in that transition phase. We have been invoiced. We're in that transition phase. If we decide not to transition or this does not go through, then we will be back to trying to select another records management system.
Well, your existing records will migrate over
Yes.
appropriately.
You said this will cover this year and next year?
So we're not, this year's over, so
Well, yeah.
it'll cover next year. It covers, it's a little over $2,000 for the onboarding for their tech people to do all the switch over, and then it's $7,000, and you have to pay the first year at that time.
You know what we had budgeted for records management for next year in the budget?
It would have been what emergency reporting is, I want to say anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000, Jamie.
It's not going to be a significant difference.
It's about a $3,000 increase. Yeah.
But then that'll come due December.
That'll
so
come
next
due in
year,
December
right,
for
so we'll still have to pay that,
January.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and knowing that now, I can always, I'm gonna obviously hold back to know that we just lucked out this year that we had some funds left to do it without an additional appropriation.
Sounds like we don't have much of a choice.
Unfortunately, no.
I would move approval of the records management service that Chief Sturmer has recommended. And the
Second.
cost of $10,218.
No, no.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Perfect. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, Mark. Some equipment purchases. This also was part of the council conversation last month, so you might rehash that a minute whenever you get ready.
Good evening. We've held everything off the end of the year to see where our budget situation is. And we've done really well as far as equipment purchases. We've kept things tight and close till the end of the year. I have 3 quotes in front of you. I'm going to go to the International truck and the dump package and everything that comes through Buyers Manufacturing. These are both Sourcewell purchase contract agreements, Chris, so we're in good shape on that. There you are replacing a 2005 International dump truck. So it's got 19 years of service out of it, and it's pretty much at the point where we've got a lot of issues as far as the entire undercarriage on the truck, and the bed's in horrible, horrible shape. So the funds are available. I will be going, or Amy will present to council tonight to encumber funds that remain unspent. Not going to impact the budget at all negatively whatsoever. And I'll cover that one first. I'd like approval for that item. It's just 2 different parts and 2 different suppliers.
Oh, the cabin chassis is one, and then the dump truck hydraulics, that's the other.
The
part.
hydraulics, the truck, the plow, the spreader, the whole thing is the other.
Okay. I'll make a motion, we approve.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
The other is the last item that we need for our new facility. As you all toured it, you noticed we had the mezzanine upstairs where we store everything. We have had a forklift rented from McAllister for the last 3 months. We went out and priced several, and they came back and shot us a price for the 23 that we have with 400 hours on it. And it came back about $17,000 under what a new one would cost. We've had no issues with whatsoever. And being a year old, we figured it was a wonderful opportunity to go ahead and buy this one we're familiar with and save the money. And this has already been approved as part of the bond issue, and the council approved the funds for this last month because I didn't have the finalized quote yet. And I'd like a motion to go ahead and accept this quote from McAllister and get this purchased also.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, Zach, you've got a couple items. Safety grant.
The city was recently awarded a safety-focused grant from INDOT for $1 million, give or take. This was part of their call for projects. They had $50 million total to give out, and we got $1 million of that, which is a 90-10 match for us, so we only have to put up 10% of the total cost. So the focus of that project's going to be GPS pre-emption devices on traffic signals throughout the city. 11 total as part of this grant, then putting all the equipment onto police vehicles. That way, as they're approaching intersections, they can trigger the lights to go green for the direction they're trying to go, which will help improve safety of the cars and intersection interactions. And then this also updates our 3 traffic signal cabinet internals on Lincoln Street to where we can put audible pedestrian warnings on those cabinets, and then just gets those updated for the next few years, along with putting LED lights with backplates on the traffic heads themselves, and then restriping all of Lincoln Street. So those are the 4 main things in that grant that we got, and it is federal money, so we do have a PE contract to get awarded in the next few months. So that'll be awarded by March.
Okay.
All vehicles, all police, fire, EMS, everything?
So fire got theirs as part of the new fire station. So this is just for the police vehicles.
For the city of Greensburg Police.
Not EMS.
No.
Okay,
They can add to that system should they choose to buy the equipment.
gotcha.
Big, any other questions for Zach on that? Big thanks to him and Mark. They worked a lot of hours to do that, but it's really good money. And those projects have sort of been on our radar for a few years. The traffic cabinets are very expensive, and getting the audio pedestrian crossing for those that are visually impaired and just generally people in our community is a great add. And then the preemption stuff's a big investment in public safety, both for the public safety official and the public.
Yeah.
So it's $1 million is a lot. We're very appreciative of INDOT's continued investment, and it's going to help move the ball. So thank you to both of you for your internal help.
Next topic, CCMG 2024-2 award was awarded early last month. That was for $557,000 to resurface and curb, sidewalk. I think it's like 30-some streets. So that will get put underway next year. You'll see bids in February at your February meeting for that project.
And what about
Washington Street.
Washington Street, Shudy's been continuing to do stormwater and sidewalks, curbs. Right now, they're scheduled to open Montfort and Washington intersection by the end of the year, before Christmas. And then the next phase of that will go down to Jackson, close that intersection, and work from Jackson intersection down to the alleyway just this side of Picker's Paradise.
Any questions for Zach?
And one more quick update is 421, if you notice that's closed. That is on track. They've torn everything out of there, getting it all put back in. Weather pending, we'd like to throw the asphalt in Thursday and Friday and be out of there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to Rick and his entire team. They've had a couple bad water issues over the last 2 weeks, and I know that they are out in the middle of the night when it's cold and freezing, and they've been working with the O'Mara team on the 421 thing. So many thanks to Rick and his guys. Chief McNeely.
Hey, can you not walk me?
Did you bring some friends?
I did.
Okay.
Yes. Respected board members, members of the public, family, and peers, I'm pleased to present to you this evening a group of dedicated officers who are choosing to take on the role of supervisory positions with the Greensburg Police Department. Some of them have been supervisors in the past. For some, this is their first step into the supervisory role. Choosing to be a police officer on any level is a major life decision that cannot be taken lightly. Every officer serving this community has a huge responsibility on their shoulders every shift that they work. Today, these officers are choosing to add additional responsibility and accountability to their already established roles. They are dedicating themselves not only to their public servanthood, but also to the city, the department, and their peers. They will be responsible for not only the normal tasks of a police officer, but approving reports, scheduling shifts, being the communication vessel for their shift, and overseeing the day-to-day operations with their respected officers and divisions. First officer for promotion is Derek Fosnot. Captain Derek Fosnot has been a police officer for 13 years, 6 of which have been with the Greensburg Police Department. Captain Fosnot has held multiple positions since coming to the department, which include police officer, lieutenant, and captain. He is general instructor that specializes in defensive tactics and less lethal munitions. He is also part of the Greensburg Police Department's tactical response team and is the department's public information officer. Captain Fosnot is being promoted to assistant chief of police. Lieutenant Robert Wayne Davis has been a police officer with the Greensburg Police Department for 16 years. In this time, he has held the position of police officer, sergeant, and lieutenant. Lieutenant Davis is a general instructor specializing in firearms instruction, as well as a member of the tactical response team. He's been the recipient of the Leadership Award and the Chiefs Award. Lieutenant Davis was also the 2024 Optimus Officer of the Year. Lieutenant Davis is being promoted to patrol captain. Sergeant Eric Lusk has been with the police department for 8 years. He's held the position of police officer and sergeant. Sergeant Lusk is a general instructor specializing in active shooter training, as well as the team leader for the tactical response team. In his time with our department, he has been the recipient of the department's Leadership Award and received the Department Valor Commendation. Sergeant Lusk is being promoted to lieutenant. Officer Casey Jones has been a police officer for nearly 10 years, 8 of which have been at the Greensburg Police Department. During his time with us, Officer Jones has been the designated community officer, as well as fulfilling his duties as police officer. He is a general instructor specializing in emergency vehicle operations, and he is our field training coordinator. Officer Jones has been the recipient of the department's Community Service Award, as well as the Chiefs Award. Officer Jones is being promoted to lieutenant. Officer Thomas Tuttle has been a police officer with the Greensburg Police Department for 3.5 years. Officer Tuttle is the SNAPS, which is Special Needs Awareness Police Program, coordinator, and a general instructor specializing in stops. In his time in the department, he has been the recipient of the department's Community Service Award, as well as the Chiefs Award. Officer Tuttle is being promoted to sergeant. This time I'd like to ask Lieutenant Lusk and Officer Abel to step forward a couple steps. Board, it's the policy of the Greensburg Police Department to recognize and acknowledge exceptional individuals or group achievements, performance, proficiency, heroism, and service of its members and individuals from the community through commendations and awards. Commendations for members of the department commendations for members of the department or for individuals from the community may be initiated by any department member or by any person from the community. A meritorious or commemorable act may include, but is not limited to, superior handling of a difficult situation, conspicuous bravery, or outstanding performance, or any action or performance that is above and beyond typical duties. The Greensburg Police Department maintains the following commendations and awards: Award of Valor, Leadership Award, Meritorious Conduct, Purple Heart, and Officer of the Year. I'd like to read to you a couple of referrals that I've received this year. To the Greensburg Police Department, Chief of Police Mike McNeely, in reference to call G24-10237, it is my recommendation that Patrol Officer Dylan Abel is deserving of recognition and award in accordance with Policy 1014 of the Greensburg Police Department. On October 8, 2024, at 117 North Broadway Street, Patrol Officer Dylan Abel displayed meritorious performance during a critical incident where several individuals had been critically injured in a crash of a motor vehicle into an occupied structure. Patrol Officer Abel responded to the incident and assisted with the scene and large gathering of people nearby. On several occasions, Patrol Officer Abel was tasked with essential actions such as gathering of information, crowd control, or emergent departure of an ambulance. Patrol Officer Abel as is typical, accepted these tasks and performed them with an admirable level of urgency and proficiency beyond his years of experience. I'm submitting this letter to request and recommend commendation and recognition of the above described actions taken by Patrol Officer Dylan Abel. I'm going to ask now Captain Wayne Davis to step forward. This recommendation came from Captain Davis after observing the event that night. So Officer Dylan Abel is being awarded the Meritorious Conduct Award. Stay here. I have another commendation letter. To the Greensburg Police Chief, Mike McNeely, in reference to call G24-10237, is my recommendation that Sergeant Eric Lusk is deserving of recognition and award in accordance with Policy 1014 of the Greensburg Police Department. On October 8, 2024, at 117 North Broadway Street, Greensburg, Indiana, Sergeant Lusk displayed levels of professional and meritorious performance during a critical incident that by many accounts resulted in the prevention of life of an adult male who had been critically injured in a crash of a motor vehicle into an occupied structure. The proper and effective application of a tourniquet to the upper leg of the injured male has been credited as life-saving by medical professionals who observed the situation on scene as well as in the after-action review of the events of the day. Sergeant Lusk performed his duty to the highest levels of proficiency and maintained professionalism throughout. In addition to the life-saving measures, Sergeant Lusk went on to investigate the crash, collect evidence, and complete reports as the primary officer before returning to service at the completion of the investigation. I'm submitting this letter to request and recommend commendation and recognition of the above described actions by Sergeant Eric Lusk to receive the awards of Life-Saving Award and Meritorious Conduct. Thank you.
Well, Chief, thank you for bringing this part of the program. I know this is something we talked about a while back with swearing in of officers, so thank you. Gentlemen, thank you, and welcome to your new roles as a part of our department. I know some of you have worked years for these roles, continue to serve us every day, and to our new team members that are joining us, we welcome them into the ranks. Thank you for your bravery and actions that you take to result in these awards, and as you work to protect our community every day, so thank you very much. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
We'll leave, we want to shake your hands.
Yeah, don't leave, just go out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chief?
That's right.
Don't steal that.
Thank you to the family for coming.
Absolutely, thank you.
Perfect. Okay.
Very nice.
You all should last item of business is the claims. You all should have received a copy of those. Any edits, additions, or corrections?
Second.
Motion's been made to approve, and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. That will conclude all of our business for 2025. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We will see you in January. Should you need something in the meantime, please reach out. But with that, we take a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Motion's been made. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Thanks, everyone.